Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. You know the drill. You bring the fascinating stuff, and we dive in and bring you the most interesting takeaways. And today, we're looking at a collection of, well, I guess you could call them powerful quotes from some pretty remarkable women.
The kind of women who leave a mark on the world you know.
Exactly. And you know.
Yeah.
There's one quote in particular that really jumped out at me when I was looking through the material. And it's from Comper, Roseanne Barr. She said, "The thing women have yet to learn is nobody gives you power. You just take it."
Wow.
I know, right?
That is pretty direct.
Yeah. No sugarcoating there.
No kidding. It's funny because it kind of flies in the face of, well, I guess, traditional ideas about how women are, supposed to get power.
Yeah. It's like just throwing down a gauntlet or something. It definitely made me stop and think.
I bet.
So I'm curious, when you hear that quote, what's your gut reaction?
Well, I guess what comes to mind for me is, well, it's all the times throughout history when, when women have had to fight for even like the most basic rights.
Right.
Think about the suffrage movement. Women weren't just given the right to vote. They had to organize, protest. They risked their safety to demand that right. So it wasn't given. It was very much taken.
That's a good point. And I guess that whole idea of taking power, it can seem, I don't know, maybe a little jarring.
Yeah.
Like, does it have to be aggressive? I mean, sure, that word taking might rub some people the wrong way.
Yeah, I can see that. It's definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
I think it's important to understand what taking power really means in this context. I don't think it's necessarily about aggression or even dominance. It's more about agency, self-determination, recognizing your own inherent worth, and refusing to wait for someone else to give you permission to act, to lead.
So it's not about like stepping on others to climb the ladder. It's more about like building your own ladder.
Exactly. It's about creating your own opportunities, defining your own goals, and pursuing them with confidence and determination. And sometimes, sometimes that means challenging the status quo, speaking truth to power, and refusing to be silenced.
It makes me think about, I think there was another quote from Roseanne Barr, actually, where she said, "I'm not going to sit back and let someone else dictate my life." And it's like that same spirit of self-reliance, that refusal to be a passive bystander in your own story.
Absolutely. And that's really what's at the heart of this idea of taking power. It's about owning your narrative, shaping your own destiny, and refusing to let others define you.
Or your potential.
Okay, so that makes sense. But if no one's just like handing out power, how do we actually go about taking it? What does that even look like in everyday life?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Because it's not always about, grand gestures or sweeping revolutions. Sometimes taking power is about the everyday choices we make.
Oh, yeah. Like setting boundaries, speaking up for ourselves, and refusing to shrink ourselves to fit other people's expectations.
So maybe it starts with recognizing the power we already possess, like those inner strengths and qualities that we often, I don't know, maybe downplay or dismiss.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating those inner strengths, like courage, resilience, self-belief. It's about knowing what you bring to the table, as they say, and not being afraid to, Eat alone if you have to.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we're starting to build this picture of what it means to take power. It's not about aggression. It's about agency. It's not about waiting for permission. It's about self-determination. And it's not always about these grand gestures. It can be about those small daily acts of courage.
And self-belief. Exactly. And, this idea of taking power, it isn't just about individual empowerment either. It's also about collective action and creating a world where all women feel empowered to reach their full potential.
Right. So it's like if we all embrace this idea of taking power, imagine the possibilities.
Oh, yeah. It could be a real game changer.
Definitely. And speaking of game changers, there are so many amazing women highlighted in these quotes who really embody this spirit of taking power. Malala Yousafzai, for example, risking her life to advocate for education for girls. I mean, that takes incredible courage.
It really does. And it also shows that taking power can sometimes mean putting yourself on the line for something you believe in, even when it's dangerous.
Right. She didn't wait for someone to give her permission to speak out. She saw a need, knew what was right, and she acted despite the risks. And that's incredibly powerful.
But not all of us are called to be, activists on a global stage. So for those of us who aren't, leading revolutions. How can we translate this idea of taking power into our own lives? Where do we start?
Well, I think it starts with self-awareness, taking a moment to honestly assess where you might be giving your power away, where you might be silencing yourself, or where you might be holding yourself back out of fear or self-doubt.
So before we can even take power, we need to understand we're already giving it away, maybe unintentionally. Exactly. And once you start to recognize those patterns, you can begin to shift them.
Okay, so we're seeing that. Taking power, it can involve some pretty deep introspection.
Yeah.
It's not just about external actions. It's about that internal shift in mindset.
Absolutely. And that internal shift is crucial because it's where true empowerment begins.
But how do we make that shift? How do we go from feeling powerless to feeling empowered?
There's no one-size-fits-all answer to that question.
Right. No.
But I think there are some key principles that can guide us on that journey.
Yeah.
And a lot of those principles are reflected in these powerful quotes from women who have walked this path before us. And one of those principles, and it comes up again and again in these quotes, is the importance of self-belief.
Yeah.
Really believing in your own worth and your ability to make a difference.
So it's about ditching that inner critic and embracing that inner cheerleader.
Precisely. It's about silencing that voice that tells you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, because that voice is often just an echo of, societal expectations and limiting beliefs that have been imposed on us.
Right. And replacing it with a voice that's like, hey, I've got this. I'm capable, I'm resilient, and I'm going to make things happen.
Exactly. It's about believing in yourself, even when no one else does.
And that kind of self-belief, it's contagious, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you start to radiate that kind of confidence and self-assuredness, it can inspire others to do the same.
It creates a ripple effect. And it makes me think back to that Roseanne Barr quote. The thing women have yet to learn is nobody gives you power. You just take it. And maybe taking power starts with taking ownership of our own thoughts and beliefs. Like if we don't believe in ourselves, how can we expect anyone else to?
That's such a powerful point. It's about recognizing that we have the power to shape our own reality, create our own narratives, and define our own success.
So it's not about waiting for someone to hand us a script. It's about writing our own damn script.
Exactly. Right. And that can be incredibly liberating.
Yeah. But it's also a lot of responsibility, right?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, if we're the ones holding the pen, we're also the ones responsible for the story we create.
Absolutely. And that's where things can get, maybe a little tricky, because with that freedom and agency comes the responsibility to make wise choices, to use our power for good, and to consider the impact our actions have on others.
So taking power isn't just about getting what we want. It's about using that power responsibly and ethically.
Exactly. It's about understanding that true power comes with a sense of accountability. It's about using your power to uplift others, to create positive change, and to make the world a better place.
That reminds me of something Oprah Winfrey said. The greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing his attitude. And I think maybe that's a key part of taking power, shifting our attitude from one of helplessness to one of empowerment.
It's a fundamental shift, and it can be incredibly challenging because it requires us to confront our own fears, insecurities, and limiting beliefs.
Right. So it's about unlearning those old patterns of thinking and replacing them with new, more empowering beliefs.
Exactly. And that's where practices like mindfulness, self-compassion, and affirmations can be so valuable because they help us to become more aware of those negative thought patterns and to consciously choose more empowering thoughts.
So it's about becoming like the CEO of our own minds, like curating our thoughts and beliefs to create a more empowered reality.
It's a beautiful analogy, and it highlights the importance of intentionality. We have to be deliberate about the thoughts we choose to focus on because those thoughts, they shape our emotions, our actions, and ultimately our experiences.
This is so fascinating because we're starting to see that taking power isn't just about external actions. It's about this deep internal work of self-discovery and transformation.
It's about rewiring our brains for empowerment, challenging those old limiting beliefs and replacing them with new, more expansive possibilities.
And that takes courage.
Yeah.
It takes resilience. And it takes a willingness to step outside of our comfort zones.
Absolutely. And it's not always easy. There will be setbacks. There will be challenges. And there will be times when we want to give up.
Right.
But that's when we have to draw on that inner strength, that unwavering belief in ourselves, and our ability to overcome any obstacle.
And remembering that we're not alone on this journey, that there are countless other women who are also striving to embrace their power and to create a world where all women can thrive.
Exactly. And that sense of community, of shared purpose, can be incredibly empowering.
It's like we're all part of this incredible sisterhood.
Yeah.
It's supporting each other, inspiring each other, and cheering each other on. But how do we build that sense of community, especially in a world that often feels so divided?
That's a great question. And it's one that, well, I think we're all still figuring out. But I think it starts with simple things like being kind to each other, celebrating each other's successes, and offering support during times of need.
And recognizing that we're all in this together, that we're all fighting for the same
Basic things.
Equality, respect, and the freedom to live our lives authentically and to reach our full potential.
Exactly. And when we start to see each other as allies rather than competitors, that's when real change can happen.
So we're talking about shifting not only our own mindset, but also the collective mindset, moving away from a culture of scarcity and competition, of abundance and collaboration.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful vision. Imagine a world where women are no longer pitted against each other, but are instead lifting each other up and celebrating each other's success.
That would be incredible. And it makes me wonder, what would happen if we all embrace this idea of taking power? What kind of world could we create?
I think we could create a world where every woman feels seen, heard, and valued. A world where every woman has the opportunity to reach her full potential, regardless of her background, her beliefs, or circumstances.
Where girls grow up knowing that they can be anything they want to be, do anything they want to do, and achieve anything they set their minds to.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's a world worth fighting for.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the importance of self-belief, the power of mindset, and the responsibility that comes with taking power. We've explored the idea of community and the potential for collective action. But there's one question that keeps coming back to me.
What's that?
If nobody gives you power, if you have to take it, what are the concrete steps we can take to claim that power? What does it look like in practice?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think the answer is different for everyone because there are so many ways to take power.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's about finding what works for you, what resonates with your values, and what aligns with your goals. But I think there are some general principles that can guide us.
Okay, let's dive into those principles. What are some tangible things we can do to start claiming our power, to start writing our own scripts, and to start creating a world that reflects our values?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's about becoming aware of your own power, recognizing the strengths, talents, and unique qualities you bring to the table. And then it's about finding ways to express that power authentically.
So it's about owning our awesomeness and letting it shine.
Exactly.
I like it.
And that might mean different things for different people. For some, it might be about speaking up more in meetings, asserting your opinions, and advocating for yourself. For others, it might be about pursuing a creative passion, starting business, or running for office.
So it's about finding those avenues where we can express our power and make a difference in the world.
Precisely. And it's about remembering that we don't have to wait for permission to do any of those things. We have the power within us to create the lives we want and to make a positive impact on the world.
That's so empowering.
Yeah.
But it can also feel daunting, right? Where do we even begin?
I think a good place to start is by asking yourself some powerful questions. Questions like, what am I passionate about? What are my unique gifts and talents? And what kind of impact do I want to make on the world?
So it's about getting clear on our values, our goals, and our vision for the future.
Exactly. Because once you have that clarity, you can start to align your actions with your intentions.
And that's where the magic happens, right?
That's it.
When we start to live in alignment with our values and to pursue our goals with
passion and purpose.
It's where we tap into that unlimited potential within us and start to create a life that truly reflects who we are and what we're capable of achieving. And that's what taking power is all about. It's not about dominance or control. It's about owning our worth, embracing our power, and using it to create a more beautiful and just world.
It's about recognizing that we are all powerful beyond measure and that we have the ability to create a future that is filled with love, joy, and abundance for all.
And that's a vision worth striving for.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about like the inner work, the mindset shifts and all that. But what about the actual doing? Like, what are some real world examples of women taking power? And I'm thinking beyond the obvious, like running for office or starting companies.
Totally. I mean, taking power can look like so many different things. It could be as simple as, a woman negotiating a raise, knowing her worth, and not backing down. Or it could be a stay-at-home mom advocating for her child's needs in a school system that's not listening. Those may not make headlines, but they're still powerful acts of claiming agency.
Yeah. It's about women refusing to be bystanders in their own lives.
Right.
Whether it's on a global stage or in their own living room. They're making their voices heard and shaping their realities.
And that's what's so exciting about this concept. It's not limited to, a certain type of woman or a certain sphere of influence.
Right.
It's accessible to every woman, regardless of her background, her circumstances,
right,
or her aspirations.
I love that. And it brings us back to Roseanne Barr's quote. The thing women have yet to learn is nobody gives you power. You just take it. It's such a bold statement, and it sparked a really insightful conversation today.
Definitely has.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you hope our listeners walk away with today?
I hope they walk away feeling empowered to claim their own power, to recognize the strength that already resides within them, and to use that strength to create a life that is truly fulfilling and meaningful, because when women rise, we all rise.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. It's been an incredible deep dive, and I'm feeling so inspired by all the amazing women we've discussed today.
Yeah. Me too. It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise. So to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring these concepts, to keep challenging yourself, and to keep embracing your power.
And remember, you don't need anyone's permission to shine. The world is waiting for your unique voice, your talents, and your contributions.
Go out there and make it happen. And until next time, keep taking those deep dives.
Deep diving.
We'll rise from the shadows and dance in the light, unlocking our power, igniting the night. In this deep dive we find strength in our voice, every woman a leader with dreams and a choice. Stand tall and proud, we're breaking the mold, with hearts full of fire, our stories get told. Together we soar on wings wide and free. The deep dive calls to you, come join and you'll see. With passion we conquer, each mountain we climb, an unstoppable force in rhythm and rhyme. In this podcast we shine like stars on the rise, uniting our spirits, breaking the ties. Stand tall and proud, we're breaking the mold, with hearts full of fire, our stories get told. Together we soar on wings wide and free. The deep dive calls to you, come join and we'll see. We conquer, each mountain we climb, an unstoppable force in rhythm and rhyme. In this podcast we shine like stars on the rise, uniting our spirits, breaking the ties.